So one of my favorite Christmas memories is, I think, the year when the Dreamcast came out, and surprisingly, I knew I was getting it. My mom had actually said, "Hey, was this what you wanted?" Like she showed me she had got it. So and it was just I was counting down the days, the hours to Christmas, and I knew I had the game. I knew I had the actual console, but I didn't know she had all the other stuff like the games. I had I forgot what game. I forgot the exact game I had, but I had like two or three games she had bought and had an extra controller. Like it was just such an awesome memory because like I had been begging for that thing for the Dreamcast, and the fact that it's like you got it, I got it for you, but you gotta wait. So just having to wait and just count down, man. I woke up. I think I woke up like super early. I woke up at like it wasn't even like it wasn't even sun wasn't even up yet. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up. I'm like, hey mom, can I open my gift now? And I opened it and I'm like I'm hooking it up. I didn't even have a game. I'm just hooking it up. I'm like, oh yes, I got it. And she came in, brought me. They were they weren't wrapped, but she bought them. Showed me, hey, Merry Christmas. Here's the rest of it. And I had the game. I was like I just a total kid. I'm like, so
Oh my
I
gosh.
spent the entire day in my room on my Dreamcast. I think I may have ate once, but just that's one of my favorite memories, man. It's just having that and just sitting there. My mom was just upset. Like she came in, you don't want anything to eat? I said no. She came in. I think I forgot what I was playing, but she came in and just kind of sat on the bed with me and watched for a little minute. And that's just one of my favorite Christmas memories. Just having that and just being able to. That's still one of my just memories that stands out in my head, man. Because like one, that's probably one of my favorite, probably my favorite console on the Dreamcast. If it's not one, it's like two. But just being just like I said, something I had been begging for. Most time I would ask for a game and it would just hope I would get it. But to know like I had been begging for that and poof is there. And then, but yeah, overall, that's like one of my favorite Christmas memories is getting the Dreamcast for
Yeah.
Christmas.
And so it's always around the console too, right? Like that was kind of, and what's crazy is mine was kind of my favorite one was kind of a little bit to the left of yours because mine was I didn't expect it at all, and I had opened up Spider-Man for the GameCube, and I just kind of looked at it and I was like, I don't have a GameCube. And my mom was like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That was for your cousin Logan. And I was like,
Oh
oh,
man,
okay. And it was like right around the time Spider-Man movie came out. So I'm like loving
yeah,
Spider-Man at the
yeah.
time. Like, what a big bummer. And then we're all done. Everything's wrapped up and we're oh unwrapped. But then we and then like it had been a while and my parents waited a good hot minute and they were like, wait, I think something's behind the couch. And then we unwrapped it and it was a GameCube. And it was funny because we were freaking out. We're like, oh my gosh, it's a GameCube. This is crazy. We did not expect it at all. And then my mom
That's
was
awesome.
like, oh yeah, that Spider-Man game is for you. And I was like, that just blew, I remember that blowing my mind. I was like, what? It's like the biggest
That is
plot twist of Christmas.
that's awesome. That is so awesome.
My kids know that I like love video games, and
Yeah.
my older daughter, she's a bit of an artist, so she has always done like these art paintings for me for Christmas. So like I have she did like Caden for me from Mass Effect, and she did Cullen for me from Dragon Age, and she's just made like these amazing paintings for me. So I think that's what I probably look the most forward to at Christmas, video game related,
Oh,
is that she'll be like, who's your favorite character, like whatever, and she'll do like these crazy crazy, like in different styles of artwork for me, and then I get that for Christmas. So I really look forward to that. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. Like, because most of the stories that you hear, and even mine, is mostly related to like when I was a kid and I got a console or whatever. It's really
Yeah.
cool to hear that it was a gift coming from
I
your
mean, yeah,
kid.
I mean, I've gotten cool consoles for Christmas. I mean, I remember when my Nana bought me like a Super Nintendo when I was a
Yeah.
kid, and that was like crazy, and I like loved it. But I think this means more to me because like I have it in my
Yeah.
office, and it's just personal. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
I think for me, immediately straight away, that it was Christmas 1997, and I'd really wanted a Nintendo 64, and it come out. I can't remember when it came out exactly, but we tried to play it in the local gaming store, and I remember me and my mates went to play it, and we like Mario 64 was on. My mates had like an hour playing it, and then I went to go, and they said, "No, I've had enough for you now," and they turned the machine off. So I had like all of 10 seconds on it. I just really wanted it, but it was like, super expensive. The games are 70 quid a cartridge or whatever else. So I was like, well, it's not going to happen. I'm 11, be realistic. And then, Christmas Day, I opened this box, and it was the N64 with Mario 64. And I was just blown away. I just played. They actually, like, my parents, like, you have to have your Christmas dinner and stuff like that, but then it's let me play it all day. And I had such an amazing time because Mario 64 is one of my favorite games, and I think it's probably because of that. I just straight away, that's where I go to. And I nearly bought it in a bundle. I got Lilac Wars for my birthday, which was Star Fox 64, sorry, because that's what they called it in Europe. I got that for birthday, which is a month afterwards. So like it was just, it's just amazing, and that set off the whole. I mean, the N64 is one of my favorite consoles, and just playing that and just getting that at Christmas is just
Same.
yeah, it was amazing. Because I only had a Mega Drive before then. So it was. I had a ZX Spectrum, a million games on a cassette, to Mega Drive to N64. That was the beginning of a kind of proper games console outside of a Mega Drive, which I'd had for a long time. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that was it.
All right. So, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might know this already, but I did not have video games growing up. My parents thought they were a waste of time, and we didn't have a computer. We didn't have anything. And I saved up all my Christmas money, all my birthday money for years, and I bought myself a PlayStation. And I didn't have any games. I would, like, every now and again, my mum would buy like a PlayStation magazine that would come with a demo disc, and those were the games that I played. Like, I just played demos for ages. And then one year, one of my aunties or someone gave me like a video rental voucher. So I went down to the video store and I rented Command and Conquer. And I sat at like my grandparents' house in their bedroom on I would say it would have been a 10-inch screen. And I plugged my PlayStation into it and I played Command and Conquer all Christmas Day, because the video store was open on Christmas Day. So I got my voucher, I fucking rolled down there, rented Command and Conquer, and just played that. And my mum would pop her head in because all they could hear was just shooting and people screaming. Just coming out of the family's all around, everyone's having a good time, and then it's just me in the background, just like playing Command and Conquer.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it was brilliant.
That blood curdling scream they make with but before you take off, Nathan, I got one. And I think my mom will hate me if she ever watches this and gets reminded of this. So one Christmas, like a year or two before whatever Christmas this was, maybe it was even the same year, I had saved up my birthday and Christmas money from the year before, and my mom had a friend she worked with. I wanted an N64. They came out in 94, so this must have been like 96-ish, somewhere in there, because it had been out for a year or two. I ended up getting it from whoever the guy was. I got it used, obviously, 3 controls, a handful of games, and me and obviously my friends, as you two would already know, big into wrestling. Love WCW, NWO, Revenge, Loved World
Yeah.
Tour, WWF, WrestleMania 2000, I think, had come out that year. So it would make sense if that was 2000, but as we know, that's not really the way sports games work. So it was probably like
No.
it was probably like 98 or 99 or something.
Yeah.
But so WrestleMania 2000 had come out, and I spent the Christmas with my dad. Well, I spent up to Christmas Eve with my dad. Came home, and my mom always let me open one Christmas present early. And my mom had like gone to 3 or 4 different stores in town and not been able to find it. There was a version for Game Boy that she bought me, which was really cool. But I had the disappointing news to tell her that my dad had already bought it for me for
Oh.
N64.
Oh. So Dad won Christmas that year.
Yeah, dad won Christmas that year, but
Okay, right. Christmas memories for video games. So many, man. Christmas was huge in video games for me because I didn't get a lot of games growing up. My parents are all about like special occasions or save my own money. I unfortunately wasn't spoiled like that. So Christmas was always a time where I knew I can get a game or two. When I was a kid, I could probably figure out the year. I don't remember for sure. But I was a Sega guy growing up. So I loved everything Sega. And this was the year that the Game Gear came out. And I had a Sega Genesis. And first thing Christmas morning, we're always allowed to open one gift before we kind of like open our stockings as like a family. And it was from Santa. And I opened it. The box was what I thought was a Game Gear size box. And then I opened it up, and it was a Game Gear carrying case. Now, me being a kid, I got kind of excited, but then my mom was like, "Oh no, you weren't supposed to open that one yet," because she was worried that ruined the big present. But in my head, I was like, "Oh, maybe they didn't get me a Game Gear." I was young, dumb. I was like, "Whatever." And then a few presents later, like, "Oh, you forgot this one here," and it was a Game Gear. And I wasn't as excited as like Nintendo 64 kid, that viral video, but I was pumped. I got Shinobi with it. I think Batman Returns. I think the Sonic game might have been out at that time. And I remember just draining the batteries of that thing, probably before we ate breakfast. And then I just played next to a socket with the adapter the entire day. And I did get one Genesis game too, which I honestly can't remember to this day. But yeah, that's one of the ones I'll always remember, just because of how the flow of that went, and how I went from excited to maybe disappointed, to super excited, and then just the entire day was just playing Game Gear,
being connected to the wall.
Connected to the wall exactly, and straining my eyes. Because you ever played a Game Gear, that screen was blurry as hell. And then the one recently, I got to tell this one. So the PS4, the year PS4 and Xbox One came out. So I got an Xbox One on day one. I didn't get a PS4 because I wanted Killer Instinct was the game I really wanted to play. So that's what put me over the edge for decide which one I wanted. I did ask for a PS4 for Christmas. I did not think I was going to get one. They were impossible to get. This is the first year they were out. You had to go through hell or be very patient. But it wasn't a big deal. I kind of threw it on my list to my wife Tanya. And family if they wanted to pitch in or whatever. But I'm like, this isn't something like I could just get this for myself after. Good luck if you happen to find one, you find one. And then Christmas Eve comes around, and I spent it with the in-laws, and at the in-laws' house, and we're just kind of like chilling, whatever. And then my parents swung by to pick me up to go back to their place because we usually spent the night on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning would be with my family. And my parents come in, and then my dad goes into the kitchen. He says hi to everyone. Then looks at Tanya. I'm standing about 5 feet away, and says, "Oh, did you give Jeff the PS4 yet?" And I remember just being like, "Oh my!" I was like, first of all, shocked because like, "Oh my god, they actually found one." And then I get to see the look on Tanya's face. Was like, "No, like, shut the fuck up! Like, what's wrong with you?" And then he's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, and I'm just pretending I didn't hear it, even though like I was like, oh, it's so giddy. How many years that was, and then I just remember the next day getting it and was like, oh yeah. And turns out my wife would go wake up early to go to a store or whatever and see if they had them. She didn't have any luck, and then one day she saw a flyer online or an ad online saying that Walmart was going to get them in early on a certain day. So she actually got up early before work, went there. There was a lineup for people waiting, but she was like third or fourth in line or something. They went in there, and then the electronics person's like, oh, we don't have any PS4s. Like, no, they're like impossible to get. What are you talking about? And so, of course, people left all mad. And then Tanya was like, well, it says you guys are going to have them. So she showed the guy the ad or whatever. And she did the whole, and this is funny because this is something retailers don't want to hear. And especially if anyone's worked in retail, most of the time this is true. But Tanya's like, can you check the back? And, you know, if you work retail, most of the time, you know, like, there's none in the back, none in the back. And he's like, we don't have any. She's like, can you just check? And like, I've been trying to find these. Just do it for me, peace of mind. The guy goes back, comes out with a trolley with like 10 PS4s.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And another lady waited with my wife because she was like, Tanya was like, oh, well, I've seen they're supposed to have them today. So one lady out of like 15 stayed back, and then she was able to get one. So, and of course the other lady was like, oh, thank you so much. I would have left.
Oh my
so that was, she did a good, that's how, you know, I already knew she was a winner at that point, but I was like, holy shit, you did that to get a PS4. That's insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so my favorite video game Christmas memory. When I was younger, we used to do Christmas all together, and we would do Christmas where we would stay up till midnight and then open gifts on Christmas Eve, right? So we wouldn't wait till Christmas morning. But it's hard when you're somewhat younger to stay awake for that long, or for all the adults to actually want to, you know, deal with you. So they would put me and my cousin in front of the TV with whatever gaming console we had, and that's what would carry us till midnight. And one of the games that to this day I still have not beat, and obviously me and my cousin are adults now, so it's hard to get together, but I'm like, one day we have to sit and beat Turtles in Time, because that game haunts me as a game we never finished. But those like, so it's not one memory, but a collection of just like, that was like the Christmas Eve routine. We'd have dinner, and then parents and adults would go and have their drinks, and him and I would sit and play games, and then they'd be like, all right, it's midnight, and sometimes we'd be like, but wait, we have to finish this fight, or wait, we have to do this thing, and they, all right, sometimes they would just come over and be like, no, you're done. And I was like, no.
I love it. It's like the opposite of what every kid wants to do, where it's like, wake the parent up out of bed, like, it's time. They're trying to pull you off. That's great. I love that. Oh shoot. And go.
So the year that Skyrim came out, 2011, I think, was the year Skyrim came out.
That's right.
11.
I had absolutely no interest in playing Skyrim whatsoever, because my ex-boyfriend at the time used to play Oblivion all the time when I was around at his house. And I was just so bored. I was like, I'm never going to play a Bethesda game. I just don't care. And I'd asked my mum for Skyward Sword, because I think that came out on the same year. So I was like, oh, I really want Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for the Wii. That's what I want for Christmas. And Christmas morning, I was really excited. There's like 3 little video game boxes ready to go. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to get Skyward Sword. We're going to get the Wii out. It's going to be great. And I opened up a copy of Skyrim because my mum had went into Game Station in the UK and went, my daughter really likes video games. She's like looking for one. I can't remember what it's called, like Sky something. And the guy was just like, it's Skyrim. She wants Skyrim, absolutely. And I had to be like, oh, this is great. Thank you so much. And I was like, oh, open one of the other ones, because maybe that's Skyward Sword. And the guy she'd been like, oh, anything else? Like, is there any other popular games? And she bought me Black Ops 1, despite the fact that I don't play. Have you ever listened to a word that I've said? This is absurd. I now have 1,200 hours in Skyrim across all platforms.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, at the time I was just like, This is the worst Christmas ever.
Yeah, it's fine.
Kicking wrapping papers.
It's like, thanks so much. Thanks, Todd. Ruined my Christmas. Like,
That's amazing.
But what about you, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the strongest one I've got two, because I've got one which is really nice because it wasn't so much anything like actually happening on Christmas like that necessarily. It was that I was talking with my parents on one of these Christmas days. We'd got all the family together. This is, I think, maybe a year or two after my daughter was born. So again, really small kids. They hadn't started gaming yet. I was preparing them still for that to happen. But we were talking about, growing up gaming. My parents were talking about like, oh yeah, of course, we got you your Sega when you were nearly 5 years old, and you've always had a controller in your hand and all that sort of stuff. And we were just reminiscing. I said like, oh, I remember when like we used to play like a game called Dr. Robotnik's Moonbeam Machine on the Sega Mega Drive, or the Sega Genesis, is what it's called. Yeah, and my parents and I, when I was younger, so when I was about 6 years old, we'd stay up late into the night. They let me stay up and we'd play it together. And then eventually they'd send me to bed. And I just thought, oh, that's such a wonderful memory. And then one Christmas, that Christmas when we were talking about it, they said like, oh yeah, when you went to bed, and bear in mind, my parents, neither one of them are gamers. Like, never at any point in their life. My mum a little bit, a few years ago, got into a couple of games, but otherwise that's it. And they then told me that after they would send me to bed, they would then proceed to finish Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on their own between them, all the way up to Dr. Robotnik, before I had ever done it, ever. And it was the best discovery for me just to know that my parents, even though it was something that to me at the time, and all the way through my life up until they told me, I thought was like, oh, they're doing this to, just keep me happy. They want to, like you're saying, Nathan, you want to be invested in your kids, even if they like dumb stuff. You love them anyway. You love the dumb things they love. And so then find out that actually, they genuinely kind of fell in love with it the same way I did. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, that was really special. And then, not Christmas oriented, I know, but like definitely like that. And then as far as like that sort of Christmas moment, getting the PS2 on Christmas,
was it the year it came out? Was it that year? Like when it was like, okay,
yeah. That blue box, that just electric dark blue box with the white text, just seeing the first corner of that color, like just
lost your shit. You're just like, yeah,
absolutely, man. Just, oh my goodness. Having, had the PS1 and fallen in love with so many different titles from that platform, whether it's Final Fantasy, Tomb Raider or whatever, and then spending all the years building up once we knew the PS2 was coming, and like magazines, obviously, like official PlayStation and stuff like that, coming out with like, oh, this is what it's going to have. These are the games to expect. And then finally seeing the launch lineup and like, seeing like, oh yeah, down the line we're going to get Final Fantasy X. The next Metal Gear Solid's going to be on it, and it's just like no other launch has ever compared, in my opinion, frankly, to the PS2. I don't think so. Like, as much as I know that we've had things like the Switch with Breath of the Wild, and that is phenomenal, it was kind of like, we've got the one going for it, and everyone's going to buy it, and everyone's then going to get Mario Kart because we're going to bring that across from the Wii U, and we'll, forget about the Wii U. But, the PS2 just came out with just this slew of bangers for years, it seemed. And yeah, just that first moment on Christmas Day, seeing that box and kind of knowing, but still you're like, is it? And then it is. And it's just, oh my God. Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
V's like, yeah, see, your parents listen to you.
My mum is not
I remember going to the shop with them and being like, that one. Go for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
If it had been my dad, he would have known
remembered
the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my dad has always been a gamer. Like he is a gamer. But my mum was not a gamer. Bless her. One year, my gran did buy me Dead Space for Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, great! Strategic dismemberment." And she was like, "I'm sorry, what now?"
Perfect Christmas game. Yeah.
What have I done?
Or at least you didn't terrorize a turkey like other people we know.
Wait, what? Oh, sorry. That's for our time. That's it for our time. Have a nice day. Bye.